There are 7 hairstyles that women over 60 are wearing with long hair right now that are quietly agging their face in ways most people notice, but never say out loud. Not dramatically, not obviously, just enough every single day that the mirror starts feeling like an opponent instead of a reflection. And here is what makes this conversation so important. Every single one of these hairstyles has been normalized. Your stylist has probably recommended one of them. Your favorite influencer is likely wearing another. And women who genuinely care about looking their best, women who spend real time and real money on their appearance, are walking around completely unaware of what their hair is communicating without their permission. That ends today. Because in the next 12 minutes, you will know that the problem is never the length. The problem is always the styling choice. And you are going to understand exactly why these 7 hairstyles age long hair past 60, not just what they look like, but the specific visual mechanics that make them work against your face rather than for it. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Stay through all 7, because number 5 is the one nobody is talking about, and it may be the single most agging hairstyle on this entire list. I would love to know where you are watching from today. Drop your country in the comments right now. This community is global, and it never gets old seeing just how far we reach. Hairstyle 1, the flat, unstyled length. The first hairstyle is the most common one on this list, and the easiest to fix once you understand what it is doing. Flat, unstyled length. This is long hair worn completely straight, with no layers, no movement, no texture, no shape, just length, falling from the roots and lying against the face and shoulders like a curtain. Here is the specific visual problem it creates. When hair falls completely flat against the face with no movement, it draws the eye straight down. The gaze travels from the top of the head to the ends of the hair in an unbroken vertical line, and that downward pull affects the entire perception of the face. Features that could read as lifted and defined instead appear to be pulled down with the weight of the hair. Additionally, flat hair creates zero contrast with the face, and contrast, dimension, light and shadow, variation in texture, is what makes features pop. Without it, the face and the hair blend into a single, flat visual plane. The result is an impression of heaviness and fatigue that has nothing to do with the actual face and everything to do with the hair surrounding it. After 60, when hair naturally loses some of its density and shine, flat unstyled length also tends to look thinner than it is. The absence of texture means that every area of reduced volume is immediately visible rather than concealed within movement and dimension. The fix is not cutting the hair. It is introducing movement. Loose waves, even minimal ones created with a large barrel iron in under 10 minutes, immediately break up the flat vertical line, create dimension around the face, and allow the hair to frame rather than drag. The difference is not subtle, it is immediate and striking. Hairstyle 2, the heavy, blunt bottom. Long hair with a perfectly blunt, heavy, one-length bottom edge is a hairstyle that photographers and stylists have been recommending for decades, and it is one of the most consistently agging choices a woman over 60 can make. Here is why. A heavy blunt bottom creates a strong horizontal line at the ends of the hair. The eye is naturally drawn to strong lines, and a strong horizontal line at the bottom of long hair draws attention directly to the widest, heaviest point of the hairstyle, which then visually widens everything above it, including the lower face and jaw. After 60, when the lower face naturally carries more softness than it once did, adding a strong horizontal line beneath it in the form of heavy blunt ends is one of the least flattering framing decisions possible. It does something else too. Heavy, blunt ends that have not been recently maintained, which is most of them, because blunt cuts require very frequent trims to look intentional, begin to look ragged and flat within weeks. And flat, heavy ends read as neglected rather than styled, which creates an overall impression of effort abandoned rather than elegance maintained. The alternative is a softly tapered, point-cut bottom that allows the ends to move independently, catch light differently across the width of the hair, and create a soft, natural finish that reads as alive rather than cut. The weight stays, the length stays, the blunt edge is simply softened, and the entire hairstyle immediately reads as more current, more vital, more flattering. Hairstyle 3, the center part with no face framing. The center part is having a cultural moment. On younger women with certain facial structures, it can be striking. On women over 60 with long hair, A hard center part with no face-framing layers on either side is one of the most agging structural choices possible, and it is one of the most commonly worn. Here is the visual mechanism. A hard center part divides the hair into two perfectly symmetrical sections that fall straight back from the face on both sides. This creates a framing effect in which the face is exposed, completely evenly, without any softening, from hairline to jaw. Every feature is presented in identical symmetrical light, and perfect symmetry, counterintuitively, is not flattering. The human face is not perfectly symmetrical. When it is framed in a way that exposes every asymmetry evenly, without softening or shadow on either side, the features can read as more uneven, more drawn, more aged than they actually appear when the hair creates any degree of gentle movement near the face. The center part also removes all sense of lift from the crown. The hair divides and falls to the sides, leaving the top of the head flat, and flatness at the crown reads as reduced volume, which reads as age. A soft side part, even a loose, natural one rather than a precise line, immediately creates the asymmetry that flatters. One side of hair creates a soft shadow near the face. The other side sweeps back or forward with a different weight. The face reads as more three-dimensional, more lifted, more visually interesting. This single change, center part to soft side part, creates a visible transformation in under 30 seconds. This is where the conversation becomes truly important. Because halfway through this list, it is worth pausing on the real question beneath all of these hairstyles. Why do so many women over 60 end up in styling patterns that do not serve them? The answer is not vanity or carelessness. The answer is that almost nobody explains the visual mechanics. Stylists recommend what is popular, what is easy, what their clients ask for by name. Magazines show trends that photograph well under professional lighting on professionally styled models. Nobody sits down with a woman and explains, specifically and clearly, why a particular part placement or a particular amount of texture changes the perception of her face. That gap between what women are told and what actually works is exactly what this video exists to close. Because once you understand the visual mechanism behind why something ages, you can make a different choice with full clarity. Not because someone told you to, because you can see it yourself. And seeing it yourself is the most powerful thing. Hairstyle 4, the overly layered stringy length. There is a version of layered long hair that is the opposite of the heavy blunt bottom, and it creates a completely different but equally agging problem. Excessive layering that leaves the ends stringy and thin. This happens when layers are cut too aggressively through long hair, often with a razor, removing so much weight from the mid-lengths and ends that the hair loses its body entirely. What remains is a top section that looks reasonably full at the roots, and a bottom half that looks thin, wispy, and fragile. Stringy ends on long hair after 60 create one of the most difficult visual impressions to recover from without a cut. They communicate, even when everything else about a woman's appearance is elegant and considered, fragility. And fragility is one of the specific visual signals that adds perceived age most rapidly. It is worth understanding why this mistake happens so often. Many women, noticing that their hair is becoming finer, ask their stylists for more layers because they have heard that layers add volume. And layers do add volume when they are the right kind of layers placed in the right locations. But excessive layering, particularly with a razor through fine hair, removes too much weight from areas that needed it, leaving the hair looking not voluminous but depleted. The alternative is strategic layering, removed from specific areas where weight accumulates and makes the hair sit flat, but preserved through the mid-lengths and ends to maintain body. A skilled stylist distinguishes between these two approaches. If yours does not, it is worth finding one who does. Hairstyle 5, the tight set curl on long hair. We have arrived at number 5s. And this is the hairstyle nobody in this conversation is naming directly, which is exactly why it needs to be named. Tight, uniformly set curls on long hair past 60. Not natural curls, not loose waves, tight, deliberate curls that have been created with a small barrel iron or hot rollers and that sit in a uniform, set pattern from mid-length to ends. This styling choice reads immediately, consistently, regardless of the quality of the clothing or the makeup, as dated. Not in a vintage way, in a specific decade way that the eye places almost instantly. Here is what it does visually. Tight uniform curls on long hair create volume in the wrong places, at the ends and mid-lengths, while doing nothing for the roots and crown where volume is actually needed after 60. The result is a silhouette that is narrow at the top and wider and heavier at the bottom, which is the precise opposite of the lifted, proportional shape that flatters most faces. The tight curl also fractures the length into individual spirals that draw the eye in multiple competing directions simultaneously. There is no clean line, no flowing movement, no elegant sweep, just repetitive small shapes that create visual noise rather than visual elegance. The psychology of this particular styling choice is also worth understanding. Tight set curls became associated with a specific way of presenting one's appearance as a mature woman, groomed, managed, controlled. And while the intention is elegance, the visual result has moved in a completely different direction from what contemporary elegance actually looks like. The replacement is not abandoning curl entirely. It is replacing tight, small barrel curls with loose, large barrel waves, the kind created with a 1.5 or 2-inch barrel that wraps sections loosely and holds briefly rather than tightly. The result is movement rather than curl, flow rather than set, and movement on long hair past 60 reads as vital rather than dated. That single change, from tight set curl to loose wave, creates a transformation that takes the same amount of time and produces a completely different impression. Hairstyle 6, the ponytail worn too tight and too low. The ponytail is practical, it is fast, and worn the wrong way, it is one of the most consistently agging quick styles a woman with long hair can reach for. The specific version that adds years is the tight, low ponytail pulled straight back from the face and secured at or below the nape of the neck. A tight ponytail pulled directly back from the face does several unflattering things simultaneously. It pulls the skin at the temples and around the hairline taut, which, rather than creating a lifted effect, simply creates a strained one. It exposes the entire perimeter of the face without any softening frame, and it places the focal point of the hairstyle, the tail itself, at the lowest, heaviest point of the silhouette. The low position also does nothing for crown volume. The hair lies flat from root to elastic, presenting a flat, tight top that reads as severe. The alternative that immediately reads as more elegant on long hair after 60 is a soft, slightly elevated ponytail or loose chignon, placed at the mid-back of the head rather than the nape, with a few face-framing pieces left loose at the temples and jawline. The elevation creates the appearance of lift. The loose pieces soften the frame. The overall impression shifts from pulled back to effortlessly gathered. The same length, the same 2 minutes of effort, a completely different result. Hairstyle 7, the unsupported length with no crown volume. The final hairstyle on this list is not a style choice so much as an absence of one, and that absence is its own kind of problem. Long hair worn with no attention to crown volume. After 60, the hair at the crown and top of the head is often the first area to show reduced density. When long hair is simply worn as it falls, without any effort to create lift, volume, or height at the roots, the flatness at the crown immediately reads as the dominant visual impression. The eye goes to the top of the head first. If it finds flatness there, that flatness defines the entire silhouette. The length below it, no matter how healthy or beautifully colored, reads as secondary to the flat, diminished crown above. This is why two women can have identical hair length and quality, and one looks radiant while the other looks tired. The difference is entirely in what is happening at the crown and roots. Creating crown volume does not require significant time or product. A lightweight volumizing mousse through the roots before drying, combined with drying the roots first while directing the dryer upward rather than downward, creates a natural lift that can last the entire day. A Velcro roller at the crown for 5 minutes while makeup is applied creates height that transforms the silhouette without any visible tool marks. The hair is the same, the length is the same, the impression is entirely different. 7 hairstyles, 7 specific visual mechanics, 7 changes that are entirely within reach today with the hair you already have. None of this requires cutting. None of it requires a salon appointment. Most of it requires nothing more than understanding why the current choice is working against the face, and making a different one with clarity and intention. That is what separates long hair that looks effortless and elegant past 60 from long hair that simply exists. One is chosen, one is defaulted into. And now that you understand the difference, every choice you make about your hair is an informed one. If this conversation gave you something useful, there is a video you need to see next, where I break down the 5 specific cuts that make long hair after 60 look dramatically more expensive, more current, and more effortlessly flattering without losing a single inch of length. It is the natural next step from everything we just discussed, and it will change how you think about your hair going forward. The link is right here, go watch it next. And if you are not yet part of this community, subscribe now, because this is exactly what we do here every single week, for women who are not invisible, not finished, and absolutely not interested in being told to disappear. Until next time, stay elegant, stay confident, and stay timeless.